Welcome back everybody for another video. I have just got back from Japan. I finally recovered from my jet lag, had a week of work, even went to a little local for the game, and I'm ready to share with you the deck list that I took for the World Championship. Even though I wasn't super happy with my performance, I still think my deck choice was very solid and very unique and definitely a different way to approach the meta. I was playing what I consider the best deck in the game, which is Leviamon, but my build is very different than many of the builds that you may have seen. Anyway, let's get right into the list. So here is my deck list, and what you might notice immediately is that I'm running a very substantial Anubismon with Mervamon package so that I can use the same tools that this deck was known for when it was the top dog of the meta, when there was 4 Anubis available. The reason I chose to do this was because I felt that this package gave the deck a lot more diversity in what it was able to accomplish, a lot more defensive resources, and is allowed to use one of the strongest cards the game has ever printed. It does require some sacrifices to be made to the deck, and this particular build isn't the most common build. I'd say that most Leviamon lists are going one of two directions. One is a more Waru SaberDramon package with Biting Crush and the old X antibody, and the other is the less common SaberDramon package. And because of that, I think the SaberDramon package better works with Anubis and allows you to abuse this card. Maybe the Merva might have been an overstep in terms of how the build works, but I still felt the list was very strong, and had I played better at the event, this list could have easily won the entire tournament. So let's go into the card by card. I forgot to do this when I was recording, but I just wanted to mention that I'm playing 4 Sunamon because it's the best egg in purple right now. It is between this and Demi-Marimon. Demi-Marimon tends to be in decks where deleting your Digimon is more important, where right now you're really trying to build a stack and get resources that way. First up, I want to start with the rookies. We start with the 1 Gabumon X. It's a limited card. It helps me search a lot of pieces of the deck. The deck is very reliant on Protoform, so I need an extra way to find this card, as well as it can search any Garurumon or X antibody card, and most of your level 4s and most of your level 5s are X antibody Digimon, so it lets you search those, and Leviamon X is also X antibody, so you can search a big majority of your deck with this card, and it makes it very powerful, as well as the ability to trash after you search to start setting up your trash for Levia X plays. Then we run the 3 Ignitemon. This is to help support the Merva. It has the same inheritable as Labramon, and the when attacking effect does come up occasionally, but most of the time it's there because it is the way we can trigger our Merva when we go for Anubis. And then there is 4 Gabumon. This is the best rookie in the deck. It allows all of our level 4s to basically cost 1 on Digivolve because they will gain us a memory. And when we go for the SaberDramon plays, it is the most likely target because you can bring it back and then go for a follow-up level 4 that will also cost 1. And if you have Protoform to go into the Dobermon X, it tends to cost 0 because the Protoform reduces the cost by 1, and then you gain the memory back with Gabumon. So it felt very core to the deck. There is one reason I might cut it to 3, but we'll get to that in just a moment. We're going to skip past the Floodgates. We're going to go to the 2 Labramon. Labramon is really powerful in this deck. It allows you to recycle your Merva and Anubis and make it so you're playing almost the same deck as you were before, as you can just keep using multiple Anubis and multiple Merva. However, it also can grab a lot of our level 4s in the Dobermon X and a lot of our level 5s in SaberDramon X and repeat these cards and fill out missing pieces in our hand. This card is very powerful. Even in normal builds, as long as you're running the SaberDramon Dobermon package, I would still probably run 2 or 3 of this card. The last rookies are these 2 Floodgates, and I think this might have been my biggest regret in the format, because I don't think Floodgates of rookies are super powerful right now, especially Psychmon, because there's not a lot of cross-heart decks or decks that need to reduce their play cost to play the game, so it's kind of weak at the moment. But they're still okay cards, they're Floodgates. I just think there might have been better choices here specifically. Going on to level 4s, we have 10 level 4s, one of the very powerful Garurumon X antibody. This allows us to dig 3 cards into our deck on Digivolve with the Digivolve effect plus the draw 2, discard 2, set up our trash, gain memory. We don't really use this inheritable at all, but this card is just very powerful, allowing us to cycle our resources. It allows us to evolve over the Garurumon regularly, but it also works with our Protoform to eventually have the same effect as Dobermon, except for you get to draw 1 additional card. Also, Protoform allows us to recycle our resources, so if we need this card again ever, we can always grab this back with the Protoform effect from a level 5 or higher. Next up is the Dobermon X. This is the core level 4 on our deck. It works with both packages. It kind of is one of the ways we tie both the Leviamon and the Anubismon package together, because it works really well with Merva's effect, but it also is a draw and discard engine that works when we play cards by effectless. Also, when we play with Merva, it gets the retaliation, and that allows us to gain blocker with Merva's effect. And the protoform can also allow this Digimon to give or gain retaliation. The new Garurumon is very powerful. It allows us to draw 2, discard 1. Another way to help cycle our cards. The security effect in this version of the deck doesn't really come up because we don't have Gabumon. That might be changed in the future, but for now, it's just a good cycle engine. And just another additional way to draw and discard cards. And then for my last level 4s, I was running 2 SaberDramon. This card was solid. I wanted an out for Floodgates, as well as this is the best Merva target. It allows you to deal with a numerous amount of threats with the raid retaliation. And just that combination of keywords is super powerful. It does cost 3 to Digivolve, and is a little bit less consistent than other cards. But I still think this card is very powerful. If I was to make any changes in the level 4 lineup, it'd probably just cut this to 1 and replace it with something else that's also level 4. But otherwise, I think this level 4 lineup worked really well for my deck. Now, the level 5s, this is either a 3-3 or a 2-4. I don't think you can really afford to run more in this deck. It's really hard to fit that many cards since we're trying to fit in both packages. But Dragomon is one of the key ways we proc our Leviamon X, and Cerberusmon is the card that helps us cycle through our deck and recycle our rookies. A big part of this deck is that we'll go up to a stack to Cerberusmon with a protoform activated, dig through our deck a little bit, revive one of our rookies, and then use that rookie to start building a second stack that helps us cycle through our deck even further. This card is super powerful. Also allows our Leviamon X to double swing for games sometimes, which is very, very powerful with the Inheritable. Getting that extra damage, this deck, even though it's not as explosive as the other deck with the memory gain potential and the more consistency of War with SaberDramon, you are able to do way more damage once you set up your ideal situation. On to our level 6s. I'm playing a good amount of level 6s, 8 level 6s, but a lot of them are utility cards. Leviamon X, we mostly are using this to discard, as it is the best discard target, because we want to get this in trash to proc its when trash effect. Mervamon is core to the Mervamon package. If you were to cut this and make it more of a traditional build, I would probably still play the Anubis without the Merva because it still can grab a good amount of targets in the deck. Merva is just a great card though. When you go for your full Anubis combo, you get to go Anubis, play Merva for 2, possibly gain memory back from our Inheritables, and just set up a giant board for our opponents to deal with. Also, this deck has a little bit more utility, and sometimes you just hard evo into Merva, go into one of your retail targets, you get some of your memory back from your Inheritables, and have a good stall force that sets up for your follow-up plays. Then there's the 3 Leviamon X. This is the reason this deck is so powerful, this format. This is why Leviamon X plus its option are why this is the best deck in the format. It naturally floodgates decks that want to play by effects. And then using the Dragomon, you could force people to play by effects. And in the other build, the War with SaberDramon will do that as well. It does a massive board wipe with its own effect along with 7th Lightning. And also is able to swing for a good amount of checks. With 3 security plus 2 is a massive amount of damage along with the 14k DP. Meaning most things in security will not stop you from dealing that damage. Then we have the one of Anubis. This card is limited for a reason. It is super powerful. It is the card that honestly won me Nats, and I really adore this card. Maybe I'm holding on too hard, but I do think this card is legitimately powerful, even in a pure Leviamon deck. You are allowed to revive Leviamon for 7 memory, gain 2 memory from Leviamon's effect. You're allowed to toolbox all over level 4s, level 5s. I just think this card is so powerful that I wouldn't run a purple deck without it unless there's a very, very good reason. And I don't think there's a good enough reason to not run this, even if you're playing a pure build. This card is just too powerful. Then we have 2 Leviamon. This card is really good. It helps us deal with floodgates. Even though it costs 5, it tends to cost 3 with its gain memory effect. It also helps us proc our Leviamon X antibody because sometimes we don't have the level 5 with Protoform, and this is just an alternate way to get to that condition. At the top end, we have Shine Greymon Ruin Mode. This just helps close out games. You go Ruin Mode, your opponent really can't play the game under it sometimes, and then you're able to just follow up and win on the following turn. Into our options, we have 3 7th Lightning. Sometimes we play this from hand. It allows us to delete a level 4 and 6, but most of the time we try to use its trash effect with our Leviamon X so that we can go for Leviamon X and just wipe almost any board that we can think of. Some decks get really sticky, like Numemon can play multiple level 4s, but sometimes we also have multiple 7th Lightnings. This is a very solid toolbox card, and it can make our deck a little clunky because we do have to play some bricky options, but the card is overall really powerful. We do have a weakness to hitting level 7s, but sometimes the Anubis package with SaberDramon helps us deal with that. Next up, we have our good consistency cards. We add these to our rookies to make a total of 19 consistency cards with 3 memory boosts and wisdom training. Cycle, reduce, plays later, powerful cards. And the last card in the deck would be the 3 Protoform. X-Antibody Protoform seemed really, really powerful in this deck, and I really wanted to find room for a 4th one, but it was really hard to cut anything without making our deck a little bit less consistent. I think my only choice at this time would probably be the 3rd Mem Boost, but this card is super powerful. The issue with running more than 3 is that once you see 1 and you're playing a normal game of Digimon, you kind of keep re-seeing this card, so it doesn't really run out. But you really need to see the first one for your deck to get going. I think that's one of the biggest weaknesses with the Protoform build that the other build doesn't have as much reliance on. It does run the other X Antibody, but it doesn't need the other X Antibody to even start playing its main game plan. So why did I choose this build over the other build? Well, in my opinion, because Anubismon is so powerful, and Leviamon is still a strong enough deck on its own, I thought the draw engine of the deck was so efficient that even though you're playing a good amount of one-ofs, you can see your Anubis as long as it's not in security, because you have a ton of search and draw power with all of your draw cards, all of your ways to revive rookies and keep drawing cards. You're playing as much consistency cards as you could possibly fit in the deck. Maybe fit one more, but it's a little difficult to do that. It just has so much draw and consistency. Most games when I was testing, I saw maybe 35, 40 cards in my deck consistently every game I got to play. The deck just felt super consistent and powerful. I was just making misplays in the tournament. I think if you're really willing to test your skill and try a more unique version of the deck, I think this deck is a great choice, and I think it is exceptionally powerful. So thinking over cards I would add into the deck if I were to make any changes, the things I would consider is the starter deck Gabumon. This card is super powerful. It allows you to gain memory at the start of your main phase and give you the inheritable to draw and discard more cards. I would probably replace the Floodgates at minimum and maybe one of the Gabumon if I was going to stay in the current direction I'm going. There's also, I would consider the Raremon, although it is extremely expensive and I think it's very not required for this build in particular. It's a good card and it would probably cover the other SaberDramon, so I'd only play one SaberDramon, one Raremon. But you can go either way. Everything else is just more or less copies of cards I was already playing. Maybe Garurumon would also replace the SaberDramon. Dragmon would be there instead of one of my Cerberusmons. Or maybe I find a way to fit in a 4th X-Antibody Protoform. Anyway, that's it for the deck list. I had a great time at the World Championship. It was super fun. I met a lot of amazing people. I'm glad that even though my version wasn't the one that won, I did feel confident that I was playing the best deck at the time. And I look forward to putting more work into this deck and trying to prove people that Anubis is still a threat into the meta and do well with this in some of the regional events that I've signed up for this current format. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Have a good one, and if you remember to do all that YouTube stuff down below, and I'll appreciate it. Peace out.